In this video, we will be learning about puberty and the menstrual cycle. We will begin by understanding what puberty is and how it is triggered by reproductive hormones. Then we will look at the 4 distinct stages of the menstrual cycle and examine what occurs during each of those stages. Finally, we will discuss the 4 main hormones involved in regulating the menstrual cycle and how these hormones interact with each other in a coordinated system. To begin, puberty is a developmental phase during which adolescents start to develop what are known as secondary sexual characteristics. These changes are physical in nature and include growth spurts, the appearance of body hair, and other noticeable transformations. This important biological process typically begins between the ages of 8 and 14, although this range can vary between individuals. The onset of puberty is driven by specific hormonal changes in the body. In males, the primary hormone responsible is testosterone, which is the male sex hormone. This hormone is produced in the testes and is crucial for triggering both the physical changes and the production of sperm. In females, puberty is driven by the hormone estrogen, which is the female sex hormone. Estrogen is produced in the ovaries and is responsible for initiating the menstrual cycle, as well as physical development associated with female puberty. Before diving deeper into the menstrual cycle, it is helpful to first understand where all of this takes place within the body. The female reproductive system consists of several important parts. In the center is the uterus, which is lined by the uterus lining, also known as the endometrium. This lining is significant because it builds up and breaks down as part of the menstrual cycle. On either side of the uterus are the ovaries, which store and release eggs. These ovaries are connected to the uterus by thin tubes called the fallopian tubes. Eggs travel from the ovaries through the fallopian tubes to the uterus. If fertilization occurs, the fertilized egg may implant into the uterus lining and begin development. If fertilization does not happen, the egg will disintegrate and be expelled from the body along with the uterus lining during menstruation. Now, let us examine the 4 stages of the menstrual cycle. The typical menstrual cycle lasts about 28 days, but this can vary widely among individuals, and variations are completely normal and healthy. We often use graphs to visualize the cycle, with the vertical axis showing the thickness of the uterus lining and the horizontal axis showing the time in days. Stage 1 is called menstruation, and it involves the shedding of the uterus lining, which results in menstrual bleeding. This phase generally lasts for about 4 days, and during this time, the uterus lining becomes thinner as it breaks down. Stage 2 involves the rebuilding of the uterus lining. This stage lasts for about 10 days and continues until around day 14. During this time, the uterus lining becomes thick and spongy and is rich in blood vessels. This preparation is essential in case a fertilized egg arrives and needs to implant into the lining. Stage 3 is known as ovulation, and it occurs around day 14 of the cycle. Ovulation is the process in which an egg is released from one of the ovaries. This stage lasts for only 1 day. Finally, stage 4 spans from day 15 to day 28. During this phase, the uterus lining is maintained in anticipation of a fertilized egg. If no fertilized egg arrives by the end of the cycle, the uterus lining begins to break down again, and the entire cycle restarts from stage 1. If, however, a fertilized egg does implant into the lining, the cycle halts and the woman becomes pregnant. In this case, there is no menstruation because the lining is needed to support the developing fetus. Now, let us focus on the hormones that control the menstrual cycle. Estrogen is one of the key hormones, and it is produced in the ovaries. Its main role is to stimulate the growth of the uterus lining. During stage 2 of the cycle, the level of estrogen rises as the lining is rebuilding. Once the lining has sufficiently thickened, estrogen levels drop. Another crucial hormone is progesterone, which is also produced in the ovaries. Progesterone levels increase during stage 4, and its function is to maintain the uterus lining. If progesterone levels fall, the lining begins to break down, which triggers the start of the next cycle. The other 2 important hormones are luteinizing hormone, commonly called LH, and follicle-stimulating hormone, known as EFF-SH. Both of these hormones are produced by the pituitary gland, which is a small gland located near the brain behind the eyes. Follicle-stimulating hormone helps one of the eggs in the ovaries mature, while luteinizing hormone triggers the actual release of that mature egg around day 14, which is ovulation. So, follicle-stimulating hormone is responsible for preparing the egg, and luteinizing hormone ensures that the egg is released. All four of these hormones interact in a carefully timed sequence. At the beginning of the cycle, high levels of follicle-stimulating hormones stimulate the ovaries to produce estrogen. As estrogen levels rise, they inhibit the release of more follicle-stimulating hormone through a process called negative feedback. This ensures that follicle-stimulating hormone levels decrease once they have done their job. The increase in estrogen also stimulates the release of luteinizing hormone, leading to a spike in its levels. This spike in luteinizing hormone triggers ovulation. Towards the end of the cycle, progesterone levels rise and inhibit the production of both luteinizing hormone and follicle-stimulating hormone. As a result, the levels of these two hormones fall until the cycle begins again from the start.